Our beloved Meher Baba says, I belong to no religion. Every religion belongs to me. My own personal religion is of my being, the ancient, infinite one. And the religion I teach to all is of love for God. This love can be practiced by anyone, high, low, rich, poor, and everyone of every caste and creed can love God. God is not to be lured, but is to be loved. God is not to be preached, but is to be lived. Only those who live a life of love, honestly, and self-sacrifice can know me as the Ancient One. I can say with divine authority that I experience eternally, consciously, and continually being one with you all and one in you all. Any worship or obeisance done to any deity, to any saint, master, advanced soul, or yogi eventually comes to me. By offering pure, unadulterated love to anyone and to anything, you will be loving me as I am in everyone and in everything and beyond everything.
We have been talking before we took a long break about Baba's manifestation and avataric advent and how it's different from his previous advent. And the very first or the key thing that we talked about was that in this advent, Baba was combining three roles, three avataric roles, each of them a giant role to hold. But he, in this incarnation, all these three are being done simultaneously, are being held. Bob is holding these different offices at the same time. And that is why he's been saying that his manifestation will be the greatest. And just to quickly review or just mention the name, the first one was this, he was the seventh avatar who comes at the end of a cycle at that last 700 to 1400 years, as he said. And he, as the seventh avatar, integrates the work of the previous six and infuses it with his own blend or new energy that he brings. But then we talked about him being the Kalki avatar. Kalki is a white horse. And in Hindu mythology, the Kalki avatar ends vast, very vast cycles of time that begin with the Golden Age and end in the Iron Age or the Kali Yuga. And Baba talked about how this Kali Yuga was the worst that he has ever seen. And the reason for it is that it brings us to his third role as the highest of the high, or the ancient one, or Nataraj, Shiva Nataraj, who brings in a new world, a new creation. And we have talked about his last role quite a bit, and we will talk some more. But I just wanted to kind of revisit these different aspects of Baba's work and mission. And also to mention that even though we may think about them as different and each of them seems to have a different function, but Baba has combined them, and they have certain elements that overlap and wash over all of these three dimensions of his manifestation. And a very key one among them is grace. The reason is that Baba said, nothing is obtainable without the grace of a Sadguru. So you can't get anywhere, you can't do anything without the grace. Once you have surrendered yourself, this is Baba again, once you have surrendered yourself to a Sadguru, he has to do his duty towards you. He cannot escape that. He cannot escape it. Therefore, it is only your unbounded love and unswerving faith that is required. So we have a master, we have Meher Baba, and he has inspired us or given us this love by loving us. And as he has repeatedly said, it is really his love that we think is our love for him. It's really his love. And furthermore, in his universal message, Baba underlined this point again by saying, to get nearer and nearer to God, you have to get further and further away from I, my, me, and mine. You have not to renounce anything but your own self. It is as simple as that, though found to be almost impossible. And then Baba drops the bombshell. He says it's almost impossible, but then he says, it is possible for you to renounce your limited self by my grace. I have come to release that grace. So it is because he has released this grace that he was able to make a statement, a bold, bewildering statement, as the following. He said, qualities of energy and awareness which had been used and enjoyed by only a few advanced souls are made available for all humanity. Again, not more or not a lot, all humanity. He has released his grace, and grace doesn't discriminate. So we now are living in grace. His grace is an outflow of the breaking of his silence. And once the flood of silence has submerged creation in a deluge of grace, we will all feel utterly dependent on that grace for survival itself. So this grace that he has released will make of us an addict. We become grace addicts, and we can't live without it. Right now, we live on our own, and we say we do this, we do that, we, feel our independence. But because of his grace, we will feel that everything is from that grace. And then that is when we surrender. That's when we actually surrender, the real surrender. Surrender in earnest to Baba's will. It is because of his grace that we will begin to feel our dependence on him, then we surrender. So all of that is because of his grace. And we will know in our hearts that we now live in the dazzling beauty and embracing harmony of a new world, the new world that he has come to bring about. And in this new world, the utter glory of oneness reigns supreme. It will consume us all in a natural experience of unconditional love. It will be a very natural way, of being submerged in that love and responding to that love. That is like breathing air. That natural it will become. And an interesting thing about grace, by definition, is that it is not bounded by any laws. It is a gift. And it is a gift that supersedes all laws. And, we read this, that Baba said that I have a law of my own for managing the affairs of the universe. But when I speak, that law will be kept aside because the spiritual push will be universal. So the law which I have created for the universe will be set aside. And so when grace comes, because it is indiscriminate, it is universal, it is for everyone, whether good or bad or whatever. So all of these notions that we have because of our conditioning in the old ways, that was necessary, totally necessary to build the consciousness so it can now be at the level of maturity, it can accept that grace. So Baba's grace is now with us. And so if we strive, it is not because we want anything. If we put an effort into something, it is not because we want anything. We already have it. We already have the most valuable thing there is to have, and that is Baba's grace. But it is, so our effort is more a giving of thanks for the gift of grace. So from this perspective, the dichotomy between effort and grace disappears. Because if we believe Baba, even for an instant, that he has released his grace, that he has given us his grace, that we live in his grace, then any effort is it's a response, it's a natural response to that grace. It's not because we want anything anymore. It's just a natural response, whatever it is that we do. And so, it's interesting how Baba seems to like coincidences. We call them coincidences, but of course, there are no coincidences because the universe, the whole of creation, we call it a universe, meaning uni, meaning one. It's a one verse, one poem, one thing. All of it is tied together. And so if things seem to come together in an interesting way, in helpful ways, it's because it's the nature of unity to be coordinated, to react or act as a single unit. So just today, I was, preparing this talk, and in the mornings I go on a walk, and I usually turn on my YouTube and listen to something that has interested me in the past. But often YouTube tells me what to watch. It pops something on the screen that piques my interest. And so today, it popped up a video of Baoji, something that I had never seen before. And I've, watched all the Mandali videos that I knew about. And so, but this was totally new. I'd never seen it before. It was Bao talking with just sitting on a chair. I think it was David Fenster who was interviewing him. I could just tell by his voice, just shorts, no shirt, nothing down. And it was done in 1977, a very young Baoji. And he was precisely saying what we've been just talking about. Further, he said that, he kind of gave it this twist. He said that when Baba was with us, he was most often, especially towards the end of his life, in seclusion. And people could not, get to be with him, write to him. But then Baba said, soon I will be giving darshan every day, every moment, all the time. And all the Mandali thought, how is that possible? How could he do that? And he said, after Baba dropped his body, we witnessed it. All the people who came and all the hearts that he had worked so hard to awaken, to inflame. And so all of that seclusion, all of that hard work that he did resulted in this awakening that now we see more and more and more. And it's not just Baba people, it is everywhere. And Baba said it is universal. And so because we live in this ocean of grace now, and because of the characteristics and the demands of this new world that he is building for us or has built for us, we begin to reorient ourselves from a winding, gathering experience towards an unwinding of giving away experience, lifting experiences, giving them back to where they came from, giving them back to their source. And in this process, when they come to the surface, some of them are pleasant, some of them are very painful, some of them are good, some of them are bad. We find ourselves behaving in ways that we know we shouldn't be behaving in that way. But Baba accepts it all. He says, give it all to me. Now is the time. Forget about good and bad. Just give it to me. It's all me. I am doing it. There is no you to begin with. It is me. And so give me what's mine. And so we surrender all the experiences, all the pains, all the happinesses and anguishes, all of it. It is a new pattern that we are not used to, that we don't know how to do yet. but more and more and more, it's going to become the way that we will live. We are still in the kind of a throes of the winding phase where we had to know what is good so that we could go and learn it fully and know what is bad. So we avoided it with all our heart and fought against it. And now it is time for these opposites to come together. And they do come together, and we feel them, we experience them. But now we give them back to its source with love, to love. And so, an example of how we see this grace at work in the world. I just came across this, again, another one of those so-called coincidences. Just this past week, I came across this article that was talking about well, let me preface it by saying that one of the ways that this grace is going to manifest itself is that our outlook will be different. The goods and the bads and the uglies and the pretties will still be there, but the way we react to them will be different. And here is the example. There was this article about, it was a survey that had been done, that has been apparently going on for quite some time. And in spite of all the upheavals in the world that we see all over the world, the environmental concerns that everybody has, the poor economic indicators, on and on, all the negativity that we see around us, people's optimism is increasing. Isn't that remarkable? These surveys that have been conducted for decades are showing, except for 1 year that stayed steady, that indication of optimism is increasing. So that means people are able to see beyond the surfaces. People are able to, Baba has awakened them to view life in a deeper way than just on its surface. And this is one of the ways that grace is manifesting. And Baba said that my advent is not to destroy illusion, because illusion as it is absolutely nothing. I come to make you become aware of the nothingness of illusion. So we see that happening by this simple survey, that people are engrossed in this illusion, but they're paying less and less attention to its importance. Another example that I came across again this past week as I was perusing the YouTube channel, I came across an interview that Erwin Luck had done. You know, Erwin did a lot of interviews shortly after Baba had passed away. He traveled all around India. He came to Iran, in the West. He did a lot of interviews and videotaped them. So those were very early video cameras. And so the quality of the videos are not as they are today, but the material is beyond precious, every single one of them. And here is one where this person called Sulu Mashram is talking about his experiences with Baba. And these videos are on the Meher Baba oral history video channel. It's called The Human Side of God. The series is called The Human Side of God. And this is just one example. The others just like it, just beautiful, just not exactly like this, but similar. This fellow becomes suddenly very restless. He comes in contact with Baba. Initially, was lukewarm, finally becomes interested in Baba and becomes desperately restless for God. And he goes on silence. Baba asked him to be silent, every Sunday, but he found that he could not break his silence. He could not eat. He could not do anything. And so they brought him to Baba, and Baba said, well, you have to be patient, the time hasn't come yet. It is like a baby that, it has to wait for 9 months before it is born. And when your time comes, it'll be born. But he says something very interesting to him. He said, you will be God realized in this life while retaining gross consciousness. So this is a new humanity, the way it will be. We're not saying he's going to be a perfect master, the way Baba has described it, that used to be in the old creation, but he's going to be God realized. He's going to realize God while retaining human gross consciousness. And then Baba said, but you will go through fire and hell. And there's more discussion there at how he felt and Baba felt that there were still a lot of sanskaras that still needed to be worked out, to be unwound. And we have talked about this before, how, there's no way around cleansing sanskaras, and the great saints have to do that. And in the case of this man, Baba said, yeah, you will go through fire and hell. And then Sulu said, after a while, that happened. He went through fire and hell, and great difficulties befell him. But they did not touch him because he felt Baba's love so deeply, so all-embracing, so supportive, that even though he was in the middle of all these ordeals, internally, he was feeling Baba's love. And that is kind of why Baba says, I haven't come to destroy illusion, but to make you aware of it, that it is an illusion. And that is how, and it's not an intellectual thing that you say, okay, this is illusion. No, it is one begins to see and know that is so. And he's not the only one. There was another one who's, I was listening just before I listened to this one. His name was Raj. And Baba told Raj's father how much he liked Raj and that he would make Raj a real Raj, meaning a real king. And the whole story about him. And anyhow, we think that, there are a few people that Baba touched, but when one listens to these videos and watches these videos, one realizes Baba's love was so full, and he would, go out of his way to not only people who had kind of these advanced qualities, but ordinary people. People would come to him with ordinary difficulties. So his love is utterly boundless, utterly boundless. Okay, so maybe I'll just touch on this other topic. It has to do with the avatar and his previous advents and what happens when he comes again, and what is the reaction of all of those who came to him and were with him in previous lifetimes. So a general principle is that the latest avatar carries all the charge and authority once his advent begins. And his office overrides that of his previous advents. So a new avatar comes and he takes charge. But there are lovers of God, even great spiritual masters, who have a deep connection with the previous avatars. Now, a close at hand example is our dear Erich, who talked very openly about how when he was growing up and he was in high school and Baba would come to visit him and play with him, he had no interest in Baba. He didn't want to have anything to do with Baba. He was in love with Jesus. And there's a sweet story how he ended up learning about Jesus and how he would shed tears in love for Jesus. And of course, later on, he joined the Ramakrishna temple and group before he came to Baba for a while. So, and especially in Islam, there are these great masters who would say something good about one of the previous prophets, and they would be accused of being, heretical or having left Islam and having, blasphemed. There's a great Sufi master known, his name is Ibn Arabi. He was really a barzakh between East and West. He lived in Andalusia. And so he was right between Asia and Europe. And in Sufi tradition, there are two figures that I know of that stand out as having extended the horizons of gnosis beyond what they had been. And so how can you extend horizons of gnosis, of divine knowledge? Well, creation is progressive. And so spiritual heights that can be experienced in creation are progressive as well. And so one of them was Bayazid Bastami, that he said, I have arrived at a level where no one else before me has reached. And Bayazid is revered he came early, and he's revered by all the Sufi masters and perfect masters who came after. And he said, I have reached a level that no one has reached before. And then he said, but there I saw the footprints of the prophet. So the avatar is so much further ahead that even though he reached the highest that could be reached, he could not even see the avatar, how far ahead the avatar was. That was his way of expressing how little he was compared to the avatar. And then the other one was this Ibn Arabi that I mentioned. He was a contemporary of Francis, Rumi, Chishti. It was a certain period in 12th century, 11th century, 12th century, 13th century, where there was a large number of luminaries, spiritual luminaries who descended. This was 700 years after Prophet Muhammad, 700 years before Baba. It seems like at 700, we didn't have an avatar, but there was a great dispensation of divine presence through these different people who were scattered around the world. We had Maimonides in the Jewish tradition at the same time, many. Attar was at the same time, Shabastari was at the same time. I can go on and on. But this Ibn Arabi, he was called Sheikh al-Akbar because he, again, reached a level of gnosis that no one could touch or had reached. He's known also as the Khatam al-Awliya. You know that Prophet Muhammad is known as Khatam al-Nabiyyin, meaning the seal or the end of the final prophet. And Ibn Arabi is known as the final wali or saint. And Sheikh al-Akbar, which is his title, means the highest saint. And he was, of course, facing the same kinds of prejudices, but he says that his awakening and his total life was devoted to the Prophet Muhammad and to the understanding of Quran, but the depth of Quran, not the surface of it, and fully engaged in Islam. But then he says that his awakening to divinity was done by Jesus. Ibn Arabi talks about how his awakening was done through Jesus, that incarnation. Not then, but in this life as he was in Ibn Arabi. And he also calls two others, one of them being, again, Bayazid Bastami that we talked about, and also Hallaj, the very famous Hallaj. They were both initiated by Jesus. So there is, and he talks about how even at the end of life, instead of automatically the word of Muhammad coming out of their mouth, the name of Jesus may come out, or the name of whoever it was who in the past lives had such a deep impact on them. So when a new avatar comes, when Baba comes, his previous advents had helped many on their journey. And those memories are sometimes with us, and those strong impressions are with us. And we have examples of Baba's life when people would come to him and say, well, we believe in Jesus, we don't believe in you, but we would like to believe in you, but we don't. And Baba said, what does it matter if you believe in me or not? I will help you anyways. Anyhow, that was just a kind of a tidbit that I wanted to also share that I found interesting.
I remember a story actually. It was a story that Baba told that it is about a mother who goes to a I think, grocery store, and she wanted to buy oatmeal for her baby. And, the storekeeper says, okay, let me go and take a look. So he goes and he finds a single tin of oatmeal there. And he comes back, he says, well, I have this, but I will get a new shipment of oatmeal, the new fresh one. Then you would want that for your baby. And Baba kind of associated that. He said, I am that new oatmeal. They're the old oatmeal, but I'm the new oatmeal.
Yeah.
I remember that. So it
Yeah.
was so true that Baba has taken all these, avataric forms, but here he is. He gives it so plain and simple and all to the point, that we truly understand. I mean, when during Jesus' time, he said there is only one birth and one death. Now we all know what that means. It's like when we start our journey from the gaseous stage until the time we become one, we realize we are one with God. It's so amazing. We are so privileged, I feel, that to know all this.